So good to see you again.
Yes, Deborah Ann Woll. Can I call you Deb?
Yes, you can.
Oh, hi,
That's so
Deb.
nice. That's so nice. It feels so familiar. We did
It is.
survive an adventure together, so I feel like that
Yes.
entitles us.
Yeah. Assuming that I'm going to be using this in the recording. Yes. For those who don't know, we played together with the Dungeon Dudes and with Jasmine and with Will from D&D Shorts, right? At Gen
Hmm.
Con this
Hmm.
year in Indianapolis. Check the top right, or sorry, the top right screen. I'll post a link to that video for those who missed it. It was a lot of fun. You played a ranger with a Wisconsin accent. You sounded like
Yeah,
you were just out of Fargo.
that's right. Just a Midwestern, happy-go-lucky, ready to be
Peggy?
there, take on an adventure. I think so. That sounds
Yeah.
right. Peggy something. Yeah, something or other. Yeah, we
That
did.
was so much fun.
Yeah, it was really.
Um, I love playing at Monty's table.
Yeah,
He is. I just finished a game at PAX U,
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
weeks ago, playing again in Drakkenheim, but this time it was a Daggerheart
Hmm.
campaign.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it was so fun. Every time I play with him, I'm just like, oh, the
Yeah.
only DM that might rival Monty is Deborah Ann Woll.
Oh, no rivalry
Um,
at all. Just support and love. I love like so, as Monty can attest it, once you start DMing, you never get to play. And so anytime you're like, like
yeah,
every other dungeon master is the best dungeon master
yeah.
because you
Well,
don't have to do it.
sure. So you know
Yeah.
what? That's actually a nice segue
Yeah.
for those who I have a hard time imagining this, but just in case there's one of my viewers out there who is not very familiar with you or your work,
Sure.
would you mind giving a brief introduction to
I
yourself?
guess so. Sure. My name is Deborah Ann Woll. I am an actor, and you may have seen me on some things on your television screen. True Blood and Daredevil might be on your radar. But I am here because I also make a lot of Dungeons and Dragons content,
Hmm.
which you can find.
I would say, sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah.
would say the best like ambassador for D&D to the world at large
Oh, thank you.
that we have.
I take that very much as a compliment because I do think that's part of what I want to do. I came to this game so late, and I remember thinking, I mean, I shouldn't say so late, but I came to it as an adult instead of as a
Mhm.
kid. And I remember feeling like there's so many years of incredible games and stories and relationships that could have been doing this whole time. And I wish it had been more accessible. I wish it had been something that I could have gotten into earlier. And so my goal has always been, how do I invite as many people into this space as possible and make it accessible? And I just want everyone to play D&D once. That's my goal, at least
Yes,
one.
yes, and then hopefully multiple times
Yes.
thereafter. And I think you're doing a fantastic job of that with the stuff that you're working on recently or currently.
Yes.
I cut you off before, and I'm sorry for that.
No, no.
So yeah, tell us about what you've been working on kind of
Yes.
lately.
So, along with the Dungeon Dudes, with Kelly and Monty, my writing partner Ed Gastonley and I have created a show called Tales from Woodcreek, and it's kind of a fusion of some different genres of stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of like traditional D&D, a lot of theater of the mind, playing at the table, that kind of stuff, and we use that as a base mechanic for introducing elements of immersive theater and escape rooms and LARPing and all these kinds of other adjacent nerdy niche stuff that I'm really into. We've kind of brought all of those into this fold and said, well, how can we use D&D as the foundation to play, to tell a story on its feet and do something really site specific. So the fun of Wood Creek is that we have real life physical puzzles and props. We are in a real life environment. We make our players get up on their feet and go around and interact. We scare them and hopefully delight them as well.
Yeah, I have had so much fun watching it. I've got to say, the most recent episode, episode
Yes.
6 that just came
Yes.
out um, Friday, has been my favorite so far.
Really? Okay, great.
I would say by far. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for those
Nope.
who haven't watched it, but like, there's just some fantastic like jump scare moments that are
Yeah.
great. And the character. development, I guess, and character play is so good. Particularly, I've got to just gush a little bit, like the way
Yeah.
that you step into kind of several different characters throughout the episode is so awesome. It's so fun to
Thank you.
see.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just been great.
it was exhausting to make, but ultimately incredibly rewarding because
Yeah.
at the end of it, not only do we have such a great time with our friends making it in the moment, but now that people are watching it, we get to kind of see how does this experiment play out, right? Like,
Yeah.
are people up for a LARP slash escape room slash D&D, and it turns
Hmm.
out people really are. And I think as long as you keep the essence of D&D at its core, this sense of like collaborative storytelling and going on an adventure, um, it all kind of feels like it fits.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to say, like, getting back to how great an ambassador you are. Like my wife, who
Yeah.
would not touch D&D with a 10-foot pole,
My husband doesn't
despite
play
the
either.
fact that it's paying the mortgage for us right now.
Yeah.
She's lovely in all ways, but yeah, she's just
Yeah.
not into role
Oh.
playing, fantasy role playing, right? On Halloween night, when episode one aired, while the trick-or-treaters were coming by, we were
Yeah.
sitting on the couch watching Tales from Woodcreek episode one, and I'm like, "Will you watch this with me?" Like she knows Monty and Kelly and their
Yeah.
partners too, and we've
Yeah.
become friends, right? I'm like, she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that's look great." And so we're watching, and I at one point I snapped a picture of her. I kind of sniped her, and sent it to Kelly and Monty, and it's just this
Oh.
picture of her like looking at the screen with her tongue out and like this big smile on her face, And I'm like, it's working. You
Yay.
guys like you've got people interested who
Yay.
normally maybe aren't particularly interested in D&D. So yeah, it's a great show. So for anyone who has not yet seen Tales of Wood Creek, you can find it on the Dungeon Dudes channel, right?
Yes.
I love that it's got Kelly and Monty there. You're the
Mhm.
DM. Anjali
Anjali
is
Bhamani,
so good and so
such a
funny.
legend
And
within the community of D&D and stuff. A DM, a player, a
yeah,
producer. I mean, in her own right, in every
and a
way.
lovely, lovely person. I
Lovely.
got a chance to get to know her a little bit better at PAX U,
Yeah.
especially just a couple of weeks ago, and she's
Yeah.
she's awesome. And then
Ton
you
of
have like special guests,
fun.
right? That come in for a couple of weeks at a time,
Yeah.
and that's been fun to see, and just kind
Yeah.
of bringing
And
them
our
in.
goal has been to do mostly newer players. In fact, I think three of our four had never played Dungeons and Dragons before.
Mhm.
And then Will, I think,
Will Wheaton,
either Will Wheaton, yes, is our
yeah.
our finale guest.
Hmm.
And I think while he obviously does play D&D, I think this he hadn't played much 5e or maybe not the 2024 rules or something like it was somewhat new this particular version for him as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were excited to have kind of people who could come in and bring um, that kind of excitement of first taste a little
Yeah.
bit as
Yeah. Well, it just looks so fun and immersive,
well.
and I just love it. I have to ask. I wasn't
Yeah.
planning on asking you this, but
Oh,
um did you get to see the infamous like Will Wheaton curse firsthand? I mean, you don't want to spoil anything, but
yes.
like I'm just curious if his infamous terrible rolling seemed
I
to
mean,
carry over
several
into Wood
times,
Creek.
but I also think, people, because they're looking for the bad rolls, they miss out on the fact that he also rolls very well sometimes.
Yes, there's some
So
confirmation bias.
it's exactly, there's a perception thing happening. So yes, he had some really beautifully disastrous rolls that led to some incredible story. But he also had some great ones that I think in many ways saved the day. And again, I think one thing that is true of all D&D, but I think I specifically lean into is that the dice rolling is really just there to help support us, and that at the end of the day, if you have a great idea, as long as you're willing to put something on the line to enact it, then I want you to do it, and I
Yeah,
and I ultimately want you to be successful in some degree.
right, right.
So my games, in a way, rolling bad can't really hold you back because half
Sure.
the time this is a physical thing. This is me saying, I'm not even going to ask you for a roll. I'm going to ask you to physically chant out loud.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. And so I'm asking you to actually kind of put yourself out there and
Hmm.
take that. So take that initiative in a way,
Yeah.
to use a D&D word.
Which
Yeah,
is what D&D is kind of all about in a way, right?
yeah,
Like maybe putting ourselves out there,
yeah.
and the more
So
we can sort of let ourselves be vulnerable, I think the better storytelling experience it tends
yeah.
to lead to for everyone at the table.
I had heard someone once, a quote being that, like, Dungeons and Dragons is the nerdiest game ever created, and it requires friends, and I
Mm,
think as people who maybe tend to be introverted or nervous around other people or insecure about ourselves, the idea that, like, to play this very nerdy game, you have to have community. It
mhm.
requires you to reach out and get other people on board and play together. And I, as someone who is all those things, insecure and and nerdy and introverted, I need that, right? I need things that I want to do this game so badly that I will overcome my social anxiety
Yeah.
and reach out. And that's healthy for me. So this game
Yeah.
really, really helped me. Yeah.
And all of us, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there were a couple of things that I did plan on
Yeah.
asking you about that I wanted to
Okay.
chat with about. So, um, I don't know how familiar you are with my channel, and it doesn't matter that much. But basically, I tend to like make character builds. That's sort of my
Yeah.
passion, right?
Yeah.
And kind of min-maxy optimized ones at that.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
The shtick is I'm not here to tell you like the best way or the right way to play a character, but let's explore one way, usually that's like high on concept, but kind of optimized within that concept.
Right. Right.
To
Right.
try and build something that's kind of fun, but also powerful.
Yeah.
And so, most of my viewers would hopefully, I would think anyways, kind of share that passion, right? With
Yeah.
about character creation and about maybe, trying to optimize within character concept and things. And so, you know, optimizers can get a bad rap
Oh.
in our community, I think, and not necessarily unearned. I think sometimes we deserve it, right? Because, sometimes we can tend to be a little bit rules lawyery, or sometimes, tell people that they're doing it wrong, or at least
Ah.
have that attitude, right?
Yeah.
And if nothing else, maybe can have a tendency, I think, to maybe be spotlight hogs, throw off a DM's best laid plans,
Mm.
right? And so I know from experience and from talking to other people that there can be some challenges when
Mm.
you have, kind of a min-maxy kind of optimizer
Mm.
type player at your table, maybe especially if not everybody else is too.
Sure.
And I was wondering if you had any thoughts, any tips, ideas, or experience, I suppose,
Hmm.
with kind of navigating potential challenges there. Like, have you ever had, I mean, Monty can kind of
I
be
was literally
in
gonna,
that vein a little
yeah,
bit, right? But
Monty.
but but he's
Yeah.
a good example of someone who isn't necessarily always stealing the spotlight. Like he doesn't
No.
smite every time, right? Sometimes he's like, I could smite and I probably would kill this thing, but I'm gonna let somebody else, get the finishing blow or whatever. So yeah, how do
So some
you?
of it is the responsibility of a player like that, but I also think part of a DM's job at the table. Well, I'll say this first, and then I'll say the hesitation that's coming to me. But is the job is to make sure that everyone is having a good time
Mhm.
and feels like they're contributing to the team, right? And like, so like when I am DMing for someone like Monty and I go, great, he knows the game better than I do. Fantastic. That is a
Mhm.
whole chunk of book I don't have to bring with me to the table because I have it at the table. And so I think there's nothing wrong with being like, you have this strength. You have this incredible strength of knowing these things like the back of your hand, or knowing it in an encyclopedic way and being able to build a character so that it's optimal. Fantastic. The guest player is trying to figure out what to do. Let's sit them next to Monty so that if they have a question, he can very quickly show them, we'll try to do this first and then this, use this bonus action. Like, let's let that be of value, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a downer. And I think there is obviously if this is someone who's going to be interjecting every minute or who isn't going to let rule of cool ultimately win out in the end and is going to fight on that, then probably not even to say that that's bad, but I'm maybe not the right DM for you. So
Mm,
like that's my caveat is that like there's no one way to play this game, there's no one way to run this game, but there are maybe right ways for you. And, I'm not going to be the right DM for everyone, and I'm also not going to be the right player for everyone. So again, having played under Monty, who is more of that kind of person, you can see that he's perfectly capable of DMing for, me being silly Peggy
mhm.
and someone like yourself who is more of an optimizer, and making sure that we both have a good experience. And so, playing at the table as Monty's DM, I'm obviously a little nervous because I know he's great and he does it so often and is so experienced. But yeah, my job is to make him feel like that's an asset that he has,
Mm,
not a problem for
yeah.
me. And I think if it ever did cross over to a problem, it's just a moment of okay, cool. You hold on to that thought. We're gonna let this person finish their turn. And I think initiative is a really easy way to kind of make sure that we're gonna let this person figure that out, or and kind of you don't have to be a kindergarten teacher, but you can
Sure.
kind of enforce those lessons we all learned at that time, which is like you take your turn, you let someone else have a moment.
Yeah.
Um, and it's usually just a reminder because I don't find that optimizers are like spotlight hog people. They're just enthusiastic. And
Mm,
nerds, like the best thing about us is that we are passionate and
mm,
enthusiastic about the things we love. We love deeply. And sometimes that can throw off our social cues a little bit. So
sure.
I think it's just that gentle reminder of that's awesome. What a great idea. We're going to let them finish,
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that's my log.
I love that. It's sort of a lead with empathy and
Yeah.
compassion,
I mean, look, I'm a
rather
math
than
geek.
conflict.
I could get sucked into that optimization river so fast. The idea of when am I taking an ability, an ability score increase specifically because it's going to correlate with this thing that I got. Um, I could absolutely get pulled down that rabbit hole super fast, and there's several times that I have. Um, it's just not my sort of instinct on it.
Yeah.
My instinct is to kind of go, well, what kind of character do I want to play, and then I build towards that.
Yeah. That is actually a really great segue into the next question that I
Mm,
wanted to ask you. And it was about like character creation.
yeah,
That's, I enjoy making characters almost as much as I enjoy playing the game.
yeah.
It's something that I say a lot. And I have, I think today I just put out my 238th character
Wow,
build.
wow! Congratulations.
Thanks. And yeah, and I love it, and it never gets old for me.
Yeah,
But I would love to know, like, how does Deborah Ann Woll like make a character? So because it's probably pretty different than I do,
yeah.
I assume. So like, and I'm not talking about one shots. One shots are
Uh-huh.
great and they're fun, but you
Uh-huh.
can kind of make something that's just sort of fun and maybe funny and a little flat and one
Hmm.
dimensional, and it's fine,
Hmm.
right? But like, let's say you've got a campaign that is going to last a while. It's going to be
Right.
a year or two, right? That you're
Right.
going to be with this character and you're going to have this arc and have this epic adventure, and develop relationships, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I would love to know where you usually start, and sort of like, yeah, like what's that process for you? Do you kind of like write a backstory, think of concept,
Yeah.
because yeah, for me, I tend to usually, and I think this is probably weird compared to most people. We're all weird, so it's fine. But like, I almost think of it. I almost go mechanics first, right? And I'll
Hmm.
go, okay, like I'm gonna set up the skeleton like of what I want to play because it sounds fun and but powerful and cool.
Hmm.
And then I'm gonna drape a story around that, right? I'm
Hmm.
gonna find a reason for me multi-classing in this way
Hmm.
that might make sense for this character, and I'm gonna try and work that into the backstory. You know what I mean? So I kind of go
Yeah.
mechanics first and sort of drape a story around it.
I don't
But
think
yeah,
that's weird at
like,
all. I think that is a perfectly legitimate way to
yeah.
come up with character.
Um,
I think, yeah, I mean, I think for me, usually, because I'll know like what quote unquote genre is this story in? What world is this story in? I might tend to think, no, archetype is kind of the wrong word. but it's not off. I'll kind of go like, what function do I want to serve in this party? And and what is an interesting relationship within this that I want to explore? Because I don't tend to write a lot of backstory or have a lot of arc plans. I'm a much more discover it as I go kind of person.
Hmm.
I want to hit upon a moment and go, oh, wow, I'm having a feeling about this. Maybe that's connected to something, and then come up with a memory. You know, I don't really come to the table knowing who this person is. I kind of want to come and figure it out. I want it to
Hmm.
happen in the moment. I want it to be created through improvisation
Hmm.
and discover that this has value. Um,
That feels really scary to me. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And maybe less so like in a group of
yeah,
friends, right?
yeah,
But even then, yeah, like I'm just like that's just says more about my personality than anything, right? I'm like I want to come in with a plan, and I want to
yeah.
like be prepared and know kind of what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say and how I'm going to feel and but yeah, like do you think that any of that comes from like your acting background? Did you do much improvisation
No,
type
not,
stuff? Like,
and I'm not a particularly. I think my husband does a lot of. He did a lot of training within improv, and I've seen some terrible improv, and I've seen some really good improv, and improv is a not only a skill, it is also trainable, right? And I think to do really great improvisation requires not only a you know proficiency for it just naturally, but really dedicating yourself to learning how do we tell good stories and how do you trust your gut in certain moments, and then where do you hedge in others,
yeah,
and I think comedic improv is so much easier because the first thing that comes to mind or your gut response is often very funny.
yeah,
And the problem is trying to improvise within drama, which is where a lot of D&D goes in homebrew games, means saying everything that comes to mind is literal and has no subtext, and it tends to get very boring very fast because you're
mm,
just an open book who says everything they think and feel, which just has no tension. So
yeah,
really good dramatic improvisation is actually holding on to secrets, right? It's
mm,
not giving up everything. And I think that's harder to do than it seems. So I
yeah,
wouldn't say that I'm all that skilled at that, which is part of why I don't write the story beforehand. Because I don't want to tell the deep, dark secret until it's time to tell the deep, dark secret. And in
yeah.
a way, if I don't even know I have it, I won't mess that up,
Sure,
you
sure.
know?
And it'll give you time to develop it, I
To
suppose,
develop
as you.
it and like I said, sort of find out what are my reactions instead of deciding what they are. I
Hmm.
that is maybe an acting thing. Acting, it's an odd mix of knowing what's going to happen, but then tricking yourself into not knowing. It's a little like I used to watch a lot of The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross.
Yeah,
And
I'm a big
I always
fan.
likened that to a bit of an acting process in a way, in that like he knows how to paint. He knows he wants to paint mountains and he knows
Hmm.
technically how to paint mountains, but he
Hmm.
doesn't actually know what that mountain is going to look like until the knife touches the canvas.
Hmm.
And that's a little bit of what acting is, I think.
Hmm.
I know what the scene is about. I know how my relationship to all these things, but I actually don't want to predetermine the ride I'm going to go on. I don't want to decide how I feel or how I'm going to react in any given moment. I just want to create that foundation and then find out how I respond.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's a practice, that kind of being okay with nothing happening and being okay with something really big happening and everything in between.
Hmm.
Um, so I do think that that's often how I approach those longer stories, is sort of saying, I'm going to create a foundation for who this person is. Um, but I don't really need to know anything until I need to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And this actually reminds me a lot. If Ed is in the room, he's gonna laugh when he hears me say this because we got into kind of a bit of a conversation at
Yeah.
PAX a couple of weeks ago. And what you said kind of triggered this for me. We were kind of chatting about like improv in particular
Mm.
and why is it that especially in I think in D&D in general, but maybe especially in like one shots.
Yeah.
right? And maybe especially, more especially, when you're playing in front of a live audience.
Uh-huh.
It seems like it so often, I don't want to say devolves into, because that makes it sound like it's a bad thing,
Hmm.
but sort of it's always comedy. It's almost always
Hmm.
comedy, right?
Yeah.
And what you said, I think, is key to why that might be the case, because it's just our first instinct, right?
Hmm.
It's where we go. And the thing that I love about D&D, and to me the best D&D or any TTRPG, right, is when the improv that you do is more than comedy. Like comedy's great,
Hmm.
and it for sure has its place, right? But I'm always personally a little more interested in like improving the drama
Hmm.
and getting to the feels and the action, of course, because I am, after all, just a big murder hobo.
Well,
But
but what an interesting thing to say as someone who is a like admitted optimizer,
yeah,
right? But like even though you're going to spend countless hours that I wouldn't spend like creating a character that is mechanically as perfect as you can get it, and yet you're like, I want the feels. I want to
yeah,
get into like an emotional thing. Whereas I kind of don't care. I really, maybe because I tend to find a lot of dramatic improv kind of cringy and I don't
hmm
like it.
hmm
So I tend to kind of go, I'm not really reaching for that. If it happens, great. But I find if I try to go that way, it just ends up being kind of forced.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I, I check out,
mm,
I don't, my campaigns don't have a lot of like fireside chats in them, mostly because
yeah,
I'm kind of bored by them. And I like plot. I've always been a
sure,
plot oriented person. I know that's a weird thing for actors to say, but I actually think that's part of what makes me a really good actor is that instead of worrying about feelings, I am focused on what do I want to do? What is my next action? And I think actions actually speak louder than words. I think actions, how what we do when we're up against the wall says so much more about us than whatever we say about ourselves. Um, which is why I think, again, it's about discovery. I can talk night and day about how I'm a selfless person who would never, give up gold for a friend. And then as soon as I'm put in that situation, I'm giving up the gold for the friend. Um,
yeah.
so
But
yeah, yeah,
but I will say, like, having been, watched Woodcreek now
yeah,
for through 6 episodes, like there's been some kind of funny moments for sure, but there's also been like some great kind
good
of
point.
dramatic moments
Yeah.
in there. So whether you're kind of intentionally trying to drive that or not, I think it happens, and that's probably a result of
I think for me
working with
is
great players too. But
working with great players, but also it's because it's circumstantial. It's not a fireside chat. It's
hmm
not quiet time to talk about how we feel.
hmm
It's here you are surrounded by the ghosts of all of your family that has departed, and you are someone who's never had family. That's it. Simple, right? Like we're not pushing anything, we're not forcing anything. We're just saying, here's the circumstance, live in it. And maybe you'll have an emotional moment and maybe you won't. But I'd rather have an authentic reaction than like a forced bad dramatic improvisation.
right, sure, for
But that's
sure.
also a personal taste thing. I don't think there are plenty of tables that thrive on those fireside chats and it brings them to life in those moments. And I would only want to encourage a table like that to do more and more of it. Um, so it's again, the most beautiful thing about this game is how customizable it is to exactly what you need it to be.
Yeah. And the key probably to a successful DM, getting back to maybe what you
Mm.
said a while ago about when I had my question about, dealing with optimizers is, yeah, to sort of not only, I suppose, tolerate
No,
what
embrace.
somebody's different play style, but yeah,
Yeah.
but to find what's great about it and almost to encourage and
Yeah.
embrace, yeah, to not, we're not here to like judge anybody's way of having fun, but like, okay, you like to have fun in this way and you like to have fun in that way, and these are both great and valid and awesome, and let's give you more of what you want and tell you why that's a perfectly fine and wonderful thing to want, and
Exactly.
yeah. Well, shoot. I feel like I'm a better DM already, just having spoken with you for the last 30
But
minutes
that's
or so.
true. Well, I appreciate that, but also like that's true of art, right? Like every time I talk to other artists and they have different opinions from mine, it always opens my mind a little bit more. And I go, okay, well, that's not right for me. But seeing it from that perspective allows me to like open a little bit more of a doorway for a little more of that. And
Yeah.
that's why, I do, someone talked to me, I've met like three people who are doing their like art history majors and like all three of them were like, yeah, I know. And to all of them, I went, no, it's so great. We need people who love art, who can talk, with expertise about art. And, that is what makes us all grow and open our minds and tell interesting stories and push this further. And we need it, right? I mean, we need experts in every field.
Hmm.
We need, you trust your doctor to give you medicine, and you should trust a storyteller to tell you a great story.
Yeah.
We can all, do some storytelling on our own as well. But when it comes to these kinds of like bigger projects, that's part of why we entrust it to people who spend their lives thinking about this stuff. And
Right.
I'm someone who wanted to tell stories literally since the day I was born. I do not remember not wanting to do this. And so every extracurricular activity I did, every single, even in my math class, I was in calculus. I love math, so I took a lot of like very advanced math classes because I'm weird.
Yeah.
As you
Hey.
are. But during those math classes, my friends and I were writing like limerick epic story poems for each other. Where like I would write a stanza and then I'd pass it over and they'd do the next one. And it was like, that's what we were doing. We were constantly telling stories. And so I I'm very proud of how far I've come. And I'm so excited that I've gotten to a point in my career where I can now interact with other storytellers at that same level
Yeah.
and make good stuff.
Well, you are an incredible storyteller, and I hope you never stop. And would that I got to play at one of your tables one day.
Hey, someday we'll totally make that happen.
All right. Can I ask you one kind of throwaway question at the end
Yeah,
here, or
sure.
do you need to get going? I
I don't
know
know.
that
We're
you've got
having
to
some
stop
clicking
soon.
here. We're not sure what's going on.
I don't know if it's like something working on the roof or if that's like a heating thing or
Heating thing. Yeah, but
Yeah,
go for it.
I'm not hearing it, and
Okay, great.
the audio quality is going to suck anyways because this is a Zoom call.
We have a pretty.
Um, okay.
Yeah.
Really, so final question.
Yeah.
How would you build Daredevil in D&D?
A lot of people ask this.
Good.
I mean, mostly at like conventions and stuff.
Sure, sure.
But like, I guess he's a monk. I
Yeah,
guess
I
that's
think
kind
so.
of the like way of the hand or
Sure. You
something
got to
like
you got
that.
to be making lots of unarmed strikes,
Yeah,
right?
unarmed strikes, and then you'd probably want to put some enhancements in there for like perception checks and things like
Hmm.
that to build up that aspect of it. But the hardest part in some ways about adapting Daredevil to D&D is that he is not magical, right?
Right.
That's the best part for me of telling that story is that unlike the Avengers and so forth, who are kind of these magical beings, we're telling a very human story
Yeah.
about someone who could very well get hurt or die, who doesn't have anything beyond this extrasensory perception. And
Yeah.
so, he is a human commoner
Yeah.
with some background in martial arts.
Yeah. I think maybe you take a fighter dip,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you can get the blind fighting
Mm-hmm.
style,
Mm-hmm.
which would work really well. Plus, like some weapon masteries, give him a couple
Yeah,
of like
batons.
light clubs, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Find
absolutely.
something with a Nick weapon mastery so you can make more attacks. Now he's making tons of attacks and
There you
unarmed
go.
strikes,
You have
and
to
he
throw
can.
you have to throw a little cleric or paladin in there for the religious holier than
Yeah,
thou.
yeah.
I
That's
am the right way moral.
that's true. You'd have to like
Thing.
you'd have to flavor it so that he doesn't have spells, but that instead it's
Yeah,
some sort of like,
exactly. He
but
just
yeah,
has
the
moral
the
superiority.
the religious zeal
Yes.
is for sure there. Maybe just work that into a background or something, give him like a
Yeah, yeah,
acolyte
exactly.
background or something.
Acolyte background.
Um, that would be fun. That would be a fun challenge. Maybe I'll have to put that on my to-do list. I don't
Put that together.
often.
Do that and then do a Karen page. I'd love to see what you do.
All right.
Because again, part of my thing with Karen is that, she represents all of us at home, because she is no superpowers, no nothing. She's just a brave person who wants to do right in the world and will not see injustice stand. And so she is the human commoner who is going on the quest that is with Daredevil, that is just as dangerous, but her AC is a lot lower, you know, and her hit points are lower, and yet she's on the same kind of risk. And I've always really loved that about the character. And so very few people ask me what Karen would be. Otherwise, sometimes I'm like a bard, but
there you go.
I don't know.
Giving inspiration.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe not a singing bard. You're
using her pen, you know, her writing and her investigatory skills.
Like a eloquence bard or something.
Yeah, there you go.
That works. Well, that's a fantastic show, and you are a fantastic person. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure
giving me some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll play again.
I hope so too. Very much. But yes, again, if you have not seen Tales of Woodcreek, go check it out.
Please do.
On the Dungeon Dudes channel. Again, there's a link, and I'll put a link in the video description as well, so that you can find it. And yeah, Deb, such a pleasure.
Awesome.
And
thank you.
I hope to play with you again very soon.
Yes, and happy holidays, you and everyone.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.